MartiniInTheMorning.com. That was, wait a minute, I gotta hit the thing. That was your mother-in-law.
It was my mother-in-law.
Debby Boone on MartiniInTheMorning.com. But anyway, we get lots of input from our, from the folks that visit our, we call it our chat lounge. And it's, you have so many fans, and it ranges from, of course, the famous song, one of the biggest singles of all time. You Light Up My Life.
It still shocks me. Honestly, you know, I mean, we're talking 30 plus years later, and I still am shocked at the impact that song has had.
And not only on the people, what year was it?
77.
Yeah. So that was, like, my wife was in high school then. So for her, you know, that was well, you weren't long out of high school.
Well, let's go with that.
Okay. But not only the people like my wife who were in high school and that was part of their musical, we form our musical taste between 13 and 17 or 18, maybe a little later, depending on how long we stay in school. But for people like my wife's age, that was an important song in her formation of her musical taste. But what's interesting in listening to the folks in our chat lounge is that a lot of them are children of women who were in high school at that time, and they're crazy about you and that song.
Really?
We had, in
That's
fact,
news to me.
Don't tell Steve Tyrell this, but the other night, when you played with Steve in Philadelphia, Glenside, PA, at the Keswick Theater, I had a number of people who went to see. I mean, they're Steve Tyrell fans. They listen to the station. I mean, he's the voice of the station, for heaven's sake. But a lot of people went to that show because you were on the bill, and you just bring these. I don't know. It's You Light Up My Life, but it's more than that. I mean, it's your whole story. Yeah,
I do have a story, and there are people that connect to me through my dad, through Rosemary, through Red Foley, you name it. You know.
We should explain for anyone who doesn't know. Debbie's father is Pat Boone. We had Pat. He's not been to this studio. Our old studio down the street. We had Pat in when he did his. What was the name of the album?
In a Metal Mood?
No.
No, Near?
Yes, Near. We had him in when Near came out, and in fact we did a big giveaway, gave away a lot of the CDs, and it was funny when your dad was in, we had people asking about you, and but I mean that you have a great entertainment industry story. You know, because of your dad and, of course, your grandfather, right?
Yeah,
Red Foley?
Yeah, my mom's father. Yeah, Steve was complaining. He was like, you know, when God was giving out talent, you know, he stopped after your family. Like, you know, he gave your family way too...
so much. And then you married into another entertainment family.
That's exactly it, yeah.
And your husband, Gabby, right?
Gabri. It's Gabrielle, but we call him Gabri.
Gabri,
yeah.
Okay. And so the two, you know, you've got the Ferrer family, the Clooney, the whole... Yep. Lots of talent in that family. We have to do this, and we don't normally play it, but we have to today, I think, just because so many people... You coming in just made this song, I don't know... So it made it so important for so many people, so we have to play it. Oh, and you wrinkled your nose. You didn't. We talked about this off the air. Mm-hmm. And when did you first do the Rosemary Clooney album?
Oh my gosh, let's see, about 2005.
Because I was still on the air, Clear Channel.
Yeah.
So and we talked at the show. You debuted the album at Catalina's Jazz Club. With an amazing group of musicians on stage, and but we talked, and because on the way over there, my wife said, "Well, is she going to do You Light Up My Life?" And I said, "I don't think so." And then we talked in the dressing room before the show, and you did not do it that night.
Yeah, I was learning. I was really learning. I was kind of venturing into a new kind of music that people didn't really associate with me, and I was also, you know, doing cabaret in New York. And I was advised by a few people that if I did that, it wasn't part of the story. It wasn't part of my story about Rosemary. And if I did that, it would look like I was kind of riding in on the coattails of an older success instead of embracing what I was doing now. And I bought into that, not thinking very seriously about how disappointed I would be if I went to a show to hear somebody that I liked, whose music I liked, and they didn't do my favorite song. I would be devastated, you know. So it was a bad call. I apologize.
Well, we're going to make up for it right now. Debby Boone on martiniinthemorning.com. martiniinthemorning.com, Debby Boone, and you light up my life. Such a huge one of the biggest. How long was? Oh, Debbie's putting on her headphones. And Mother Miriam's stage managing.
Okay, yeah, because
they're broken.
That's doing something odd on that side.
Yeah, this one.
This one. Oh, so just one on.
Well,
it's okay.
here we go.
We'll wait for Mother Miriam.
I'm trying.
You're very trying. It's Martini in the Morning. So, how long was that number one? Like 20?
10 weeks.
Oh, is that all? I was thinking like 21 weeks or
No,
something.
at the time it broke all the records. There'd never been a song that had gone 10 weeks at number one, but the record's been broken many times now. Yeah, it was first broken by Kim Carnes, Betty Davis Eyes.
Wow, I remember that very well. That was a great song. That whole album was great.
Yeah.
Debby Boone on martiniinthemorning.com. So that, but you were singing before that, weren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. But not really on my own. You know, the Pat Boone family had a show, and we toured together, and we did a lot of albums. The Boone Girls had many recordings together, but this was my first real solo recording.
Take it back further. Your family tree.
Family tree. So you mean my grandfather?
And back further.
Well, Daniel Boone.
I mean, you're related, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we are. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but my dad usually says that Daniel Boone was his great-great-great-great-uncle. So, you know, somebody could check our genealogy and maybe
that's a big thing.
Off an uncle or two, but
that's something that somebody that went to the show Sunday night in Philadelphia told me, who's really into genealogy. I guess you told some of that on stage, and they were fascinated by you. You've got this family tree that's kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy. And you know, when I think of my kids growing up, just sort of thinking that was the norm. You know, I mean, yeah. Isn't everybody's family in show business? Isn't that what everybody does for a living? That's what it felt like.
It must have been. I mean, what was that like for you growing up Pat Boone's daughter, but even beyond that, then after you married into the Ferrer family?
Right. Well, it was very natural. You know, I was very comfortable in that environment. So, of course, my husband's mother, Rosemary Clooney, you know, was in and out of town on the road and, you know, performing all the time. And Jose Ferrer was his father and, you know, a famous Academy Award-winning actor. And then the brother, Miguel, an actor, a great actor, and his other brother, Raphael. So Rafi and Miguel are big voiceover guys. I mean, you can't turn on anything and not hear one of them doing something.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Rafi's in New York, monopolizing the whole market on voiceovers, and Miguel does a lot of voiceovers here as well as TV series.
No kidding, I had no idea.
And then, of course, there's Cousin George. Don't forget him.
Well, and it's funny because when you and I first the first time that we sat down together to do an interview, and it was right around the time. In fact, I think it was the week that Reflections of Rosemary was released, or maybe a week before. I had just met, and we talked about it. I had just met your cousin George. He was working on a movie called Good Night and Good Luck, and they were doing a soundtrack that he was trying to get played on the radio
with Diane Reeves, right?
Yes, and so a friend from Warner called me and said, I knew nothing about the movie. I didn't know who the director was, and this friend said, we're working on a movie with this celebrity director, and he said he's doing the movie in black and white. Oh my gosh, we got all. And he said maybe the soundtrack will help us get some traction for this. So he said, I want to have you come over and I want to play the music for you. And he said, I want the director to tell you how he worked with Diane. We didn't play that much Diane Reeves because she's pretty all over the place vocally. She's a lot of not just scatting, but just I think they refer to it as vocal gymnastics. And so and Gary Lamel from the studio knew that. So anyway, he wanted to play it for him. He said, but the director really worked with her and toned her down anyway. So he said, we sat down for lunch, and he said, the director's around here somewhere. If I see him, I'll call him over. So at some point during the lunch, we were talking about something else, and my friend Gary said, oh, there he is, George. And George Clooney walked over, and I think that I made him uncomfortable because I wouldn't let go of his hand. He's definitely my man crush. But we talked about it. I mean, how close is the family? I mean, you know, because I know that Rosemary was really responsible for helping him get established in Hollywood.
Well, he lived at Rosemary's house when I was dating my husband, and I'd been dating my husband for some time before George walked upstairs into Rosemary's room, and here comes this gorgeous guy walking in, and Georgie, she called him. You know, it's like, who the heck is that? Oh, that's my nephew. And I'm thinking, wait a second, maybe I'm dating the wrong guy.
So he's your cousin-in-law.
Cousin-in-law.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
George.
You know, we saw him all the time in those days. Now we never see him
Really?
because, of course, he's all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, he's either doing a movie or he's in Italy or he's in jail. You know, he's hard to reach.
I saw the clip on that last night on the news. They were showing that again. It's funny too because when we put the old radio station together, we actually tried to hire his dad to do the morning show that I wound up doing. I did it for two reasons. The Clear Channel company I was working for, Nick was working for them, and they blew up the radio station. And he wasn't very happy with the company, so they told me not to approach him. But because he has that knowledge. I mean, you know, obviously he's Rosemary Clooney's brother, but also because he'd just been around it. He'd been around entertainment for so long. So we have some, just like you, we have close links to the Clooney family.
Yeah.
Not quite as close. Hey, so our listeners are asking about your album, Reflections of Rosemary. Of all, that was sort of the start of something for you, wasn't it? I mean,
really was.
A new direction.
Well, yes, it absolutely was a start of a new direction, and I feel like it opened the door for me to kind of enter into a place where I probably belonged my whole career, you know. I had worked with Rosemary, so I was doing some of this kind of music with her on stage, you know, whether it be the Singers Salute concerts that they used to do at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, or Christmas concert tours that I did with her, and we did, you know, some standards together, and then Christmas music. And so I was really getting into that kind of music and feeling like I belonged there before I got to do this project. But because it was a tribute to her, and I was working with John Otto, her musical director, and the musicians that played on all of her stuff for Concord, that's when I feel like I came into my own. It was like, all right, I've never felt more comfortable doing anything in my life.
Debby Boone on MartiniInTheMorning.com. The album Reflections of Rosemary. Big show coming up this Saturday at the La Mirada Theater. We'll talk about that on MartiniInTheMorning.com. Oh, and also, if you're in Southern California, we'll give you a chance to win your way into the show from MartiniInTheMorning.com.
The Boone Bells.
The Boone Bells?
We laughed about calling ourselves that, and we never did, but... Yeah, my sisters and I were 3.5 years between the oldest and the youngest. My mother just cranked us out.
How many of you are there?
4.
4? And how many children do you have?
I have 4.
And they're all grown?
They're all grown.
Because you sort of put this whole thing, kind of put things on hold for a while to stay home with your kids.
Yes and no. I didn't ever totally stop
Yeah.
to raise my kids, but I really put on the brakes because I just couldn't be traveling all the time and raising kids. You know, my dad was able to maintain a really healthy career while raising children, but I forgot the difference between the fact that he was the father traveling around while my mother was always there, that I couldn't just take off and, you know, leave it to my husband. So it was a little more tricky being the mother. So I said no to a lot of things, but I was able to work continually, you know, but just in limited ways.
For our listeners who might have a question for Debby, we have our MITM questions tab open in the Martini in the Morning chat lounge. If you're watching the interview on Martini Vision, or if you're however you're tuned in, you can go to our chat lounge from our website, click Connect, and then Chat Lounge. Or you can go to, from Martini Vision, there's a chat button, and you can ask questions for Debby. One of our listeners, let's see, was somebody overseas, and I wanted to get his name. Here it is. Peter Everart in the Netherlands wants to know if you've done any performances in Europe.
Not for some time, not for a very long time. The Boone family, when we were traveling together, did some concerts in Europe, but it's been way too long, and I'm dying to do it. I really, really, really want to go. And
so you have the show coming up this Saturday, actually 2 shows at the La Mirada Theater.
Yes.
And
2 and an 8.
Right, 2 in the afternoon, 8 in the evening. What else do you have other shows lined up? Do you have a big tour coming?
Well, I'm sort of in and out, and I'm not one of those people that has my schedule just locked into my memory, but I know I'm in New Jersey later in June, again, Ocean City with the Pops Orchestra.
Cool.
And then I'm back in Long Island right around that time doing a new show, and I'm putting together a new CD and a new show all about Las Vegas in the 60s called Swing This, and I'm having a blast.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Like what, any song titles?
Yeah, let's see. I'm doing Sway. I'm actually doing Mac the Knife.
Wow.
I'm doing Cry Me a River, and John Otto did arrangements of these things actually Sway and Mac the Knife, I'm using, Rosemary left me all of her musical arrangements.
You're using Rosemary's arrangement?
I'm using the Perez Prado arrangements.
I love it.
That's my gosh.
One of my favorite, Rosemary Clooney, the funny thing about Rosemary Clooney, and you know more about this than I, but the stuff that she did with Mitch Miller and the stuff she did with Perez Prado were like night and day, and I always got a sense that the Perez Prado stuff was more her.
Yeah. I think she really loved that. She loved that. And, she had to speak Spanish a little bit in some of them. And, she had Rosemary helping her. And, Jose helping her because he spoke 5 different languages.
Yeah.
And, so, yeah, she loved that. Yeah, it was gutsier,
Yeah, it just seemed more like it. In fact, there's a great quote, your cousin-in-law, on ABC sometime back, I think, Diane Sawyer asked him in an interview. She said they got into something about religion or spirituality or something, and she said, "How will you know when you're in heaven?" And he said, "Because when I get there, Nat King Cole will be playing the piano, and my Aunt Rosemary will be leaning against the piano singing a song." And then he said, "Well, wait a minute." He said, "When you've led the kind of life that Rosemary led, you might not get to go straight there. That might be an intermediate stop." So those songs, the grittier, I don't know, not rougher, but those songs seem more like the real her than some of the stuff that she was known for with Mitch Miller.
Yeah, I mean, some of those novelty songs were really not songs she had any interest in doing, and
Right.
Mitch Miller, kind of said, "You're doing them."
Yeah.
And I don't think she had real regrets because those were the things that really put her on the map,
Right, right.
and then enabled her to do the things she really loved and wanted to do.
You mentioned earlier that you did some performances with her at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and I remember a story when we first met Steve Tyrell, when we were before the old radio station ever went on the air. He told me that he got a call one day. I think he had just done his first album, or maybe it was even right after Father the Bride when he did The Way You Look Tonight, but he told me that he got a call from Rosemary Clooney.
Right.
And
Yeah, he told us from the stage the other night.
He did.
Yeah,
Yeah, he said he owes so much to her because she gave him his first opportunity to perform at the Dorothy Chandler
That's
Pavilion.
right, in front of thousands of people, and there were people like Tony Bennett on the lineup, and he tells the story that I think it was B. Arthur went on right before him and forgot the lyrics to her song.
Oops.
And that was his biggest fear, is that was going to happen to him, and then it happened to her right before he had to walk out. So adding terror on terror, but he went out and did his song. And then he also says that she helped him book his show into Feinstein's in New York, which enabled him to get the kind of press he needed for his new recording. So he's very grateful to her.
I think there are a lot of people. I mean, I've heard all kinds of stories about Rosemary Clooney and her willingness to take young artists under her wing. And I think there are a lot of people who owe a lot to her.
I tell you, if she loved you, it was like the difference between finding the warmth of the sun or being in Alaska somewhere. You just didn't want to be out of that sphere of warmth and love and her embrace.
Remember, if you have a question for Debbie, you can go to our chat lounge, martiniinthemorning.com, click connect, and then go to the chat lounge, and you can ask questions. I was just looking. Somebody asked what your favorite song was from. I was trying to find out who it was. Somebody asked your favorite song from the Reflections of Rosemary album.
That is a hard one, but I think maybe, and this might be now because of doing it in performance enough time, I love I'm So Lonesome. I love it. I think it's a great arrangement. It's a combination of kind of connecting with Rosemary and then connecting to my country roots, but it's a jazz arrangement all the way, and it's sort of bringing the whole of me into one tune.
How did you arrive with all of the songs that you could have done on this album? How did you arrive at the list of songs that you chose for Reflections of Rosemary?
We chose the songs if they had an interesting story to tell that accompanied them. You know, I mean, we never intended to do her big hit records because, as you know, Bette Midler did that tribute CD.
True.
Way before I got into the studio, and I'm glad because I think she was the right person to do those character novelty tunes like Mambo Italiano and Come On to My House and those kind of things. Bette's great at that kind of thing, and I think she's the only one that could have done that and not been unfavorably compared to Rosemary Clooney, you know. And so Concord, I think, was very wise, and I was very pleased when they wanted my tribute to be a very personal, intimate reflection, you know, where I could tell stories about her that people didn't already know.
One of the things that I loved on the that you did on the album, and we talked about this when it first came out, you did a medley on the album of Jimmy Van Heusen's songs. And what was there a special relationship with him and Rosemary? Is there a story there?
Well, yeah, the story is, and that was Rosemary's arrangement. She used to do those songs. The story was that because Rosemary was very close with Bing Crosby, she knew, which something I didn't know, and I don't think most people know, that Bing Crosby never wanted to sing the words "I love you" in a song. He would sing songs about love, but he really veered away from songs that actually said "I love you."
Wow.
I think maybe he found it cliche or trite or whatever. So Jimmy Van Heusen and Johnny Burke wrote these 3 songs, and it's very interesting how they avert those 3 words, even though they're beautiful love songs. And she used to tell that story.
Debbie Boone, the album Reflections of Rosemary. Debby Boone from Reflections of Rosemary on martiniinthemorning.com. Some great songs that really a nice album paying tribute to Debbie's mother-in-law, Rosemary Clooney. And so the show that you do now, what you'll be doing this Saturday at La Mirada Theater, songs from the album, other songs? Other
songs too, yeah. Over the years now we've been adding things here and there to keep it interesting, and also we're kind of now trying to transition from, you know, the story of me and Rosemary, which sort of brought me into this kind of music, now to more about who I am. And I do a few more Red Foley things than I had done before, which I am just loving and finding. It's very strange. We started to do some of these songs, and I found a whole different part of my vocal ability that I didn't know was there through these songs. And you know, you asked me about a favorite song, and I'm So Lonesome was my answer. And I'm loving doing songs like Tennessee Saturday Night, and in some marketplaces I'll do Peace in the Valley, which practically stops the show. People remember these songs and remember my grandfather, and I'm really loving doing those kind of things, doing a little more jazz kind of things, and just having such a great time. John and I are really enjoying John Otto, working together and creating new things to do. I'm sliding a few songs in from the new show, Swing This, into my show now, like You and the Night and the Music, and yeah.
So you since you've got kind of a Vegas theme going on with the new album, one of our listeners, Brian Duff, the official #2 Dean Martin fan in the world, long story. The #1 Dean Martin fan in the world is a school teacher in I can't pronounce the name of the town, but she's in Serbia, and she has a shrine to Dean Martin. In fact, she sent a picture of her shrine. I got her in touch with Dina Martin. She sent a picture of the shrine to Dina, and Dina autographed it for her. It's very cute.
Oh my gosh!
But Brian comes close, and he lives in Thousand Oaks, California. Brian was asking, since you've got the Vegas theme going on, have you ever performed with any of the old Rat Pack guys?
I performed with Frank Sinatra.
Really?
Which is kind of a shock, right?
Wow.
And Sammy Davis Jr. I did a Bob Hope special with Sammy,
wow.
and Sammy took a real liking to my husband and to myself and invited us to dinner. We went to dinner at his house with Altavis.
Wow.
And yeah, I got such a kick out of him, and I mean, what an honor to work with Frank. We got to stay on the compound. He did a benefit every year for a children's hospital and brought in celebrities and let them stay in the guest houses on the compound.
Wow.
Which I don't know if anybody's ever told you, all of them were named after different albums of his.
No, I didn't know.
And ours was, we stayed in Nice and Easy, or Nice and Easy, yeah,
I wonder if Marilyn and Alan Bergman get a royalty on that. Did they write Nice and Easy? I think they did. So you performed with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. ever with since the Family Act? Have you performed as an adult with your dad?
Yeah, sure. And in fact, we're getting ready in October to perform together in Branson at Andy Williams Theater. He's doing a big celebration of, I'm not even quite sure how many years in show business, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think he's doing very, very well. And so for 1 week, my dad and I will be at the Moon River Theater performing together and with Andy.
Oh, that's great. That'll be fun. So Ken in Chattanooga, Tennessee said, when is Debbie getting back to the Pat Boone Bethel Spectacular in Chattanooga?
Oh, I loved any chance I got to be a part of that. My dad has that golf tournament every year. And it's for such a great cause. But, you know, it seems to always come up at times when I'm on the road somewhere else, so I haven't been able to be a part of that. But I'm hoping to work my way back to be able to join him at that wonderful event.
What's your dad up to? It was about a year and a half ago when he did the Near
He's got
album.
a new CD, which is quite wonderful, so
Really?
you need to get him in here. I'm sure he'd love to come in and play you some cuts. He did a tribute to the Ink Spots.
Wow.
And he did it with Take Six.
No
It's
kidding.
so much fun. You'll love it.
You know,
You'll love it.
that's funny. The Ink Spots are getting more, pardon the expression, ink lately because they're Paul McCartney did an old Ink Spots song on his album Kisses on the Bottom, and also right before he passed away, Jack Lawrence, we had him on the air, and he wrote some of the great songs. He wrote the English lyrics to Beyond the Sea. He wrote. He wrote All or Nothing at All, and I'm going to forget the name of the song. One of his songs that was an old Ink Spots song, If I Didn't Care, wound up in a movie with the little girl that's such a big hit right now, Amy Adams. And Amy Adams sang If I Didn't Care in this movie, and Jack was so excited. I mean, here he was like 96 years old, and his songs are being redone and in movies and so on.
Yes.
Your dad did?
Mm-hmm.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Mother Miriam is now coaching us on who we should have. Yes, we should. And I think Pat sort of took a shining to Mother Miriam. So maybe we'll.
He was a honey, and I have a wonderful picture with him in my house.
All right, it's martininthemorning.com. Debbie Boone this Saturday at the La Mirada Theater in La Mirada, California. I wanted to play another cut from your Reflections of Rosemary album. You said you had some of Rosemary's players. I know the night that we saw you when the album came out, you had some of her players on stage. They don't travel with you, do they?
No, they don't travel. John travels with me, and we usually have a drummer from either the West Coast or the East Coast that worked with Rosemary. In all of our concerts, I usually try to have John and a familiar drummer, and then we pick up musicians everywhere. But at La Mirada, we'll have a lot of the guys that played with Rosemary.
It's a lot easier when you're playing in their hometown.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Debbie Boone on martininthemorning.com. martininthemorning.com. We're going to do something. Debbie's, you have like a mischievous look on your face.
I don't know if Steve will hate me for this or not.
We'll find out.
I told you I'm the one that sounds bad, though, because it's too high for me.
We have to tell the story. So, and how did that come about, by the way? You and Steve doing a couple shows together. I think it's perfect. I mean, a perfect pairing.
Well, we had the same agent who thought it would be a good idea for some time, and I'm so grateful, Scott Morris, who is no longer at ICM where I am, but he's the one that was responsible for these two dates coming up. And I tell you, I had the time of my life. I hope to God we get to do it again.
Did you work with Steve's band?
I used a couple of his musicians, but he had his own band and I had John, and we weren't quite sure until the end who was bringing whom. And so
because I love those guys. I mean, his band, Kevin, the drummer, and all the. And
I used Kevin because we used Kevin on the West Coast.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Steve. The one thing I've always enjoyed about, as I've learned this music, because I spent most of my career in like rock and roll and country actually, and and Steve really is responsible for a lot of my education, and he had just sort of educated himself. I mean, I think he always sort of knew this music, but I know he was learning it and then passing on a lot of it to me.
Yeah.
But one of the great things working with Steve Tyrell over the years has been that he always surrounds himself with these amazing musicians, and I know
Bob Mann. I've worked with him before in New York with John Otto and Kevin Winard, and then for the first time and the first show I worked with the trumpet player that he uses, Louis.
Lou Soloff.
Yeah.
Did they do their Blood, Sweat, and Tears bit?
They did not in this show.
Oh,
they did not do it in this show. But I loved working with him. What a hot trumpet player.
Yeah. You hear, I mean, a lot of the old Blood, Sweat, and Tears records.
Yeah,
and
I know,
He's
Steve
amazing.
told me that. And he was such a trip. He was he loves what he does, and he's just a joy on the stage, a great presence. And so...
Yeah, they're all, those guys are all
Fink,
fun.
Bass player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah, he's playing on my new record.
So, so at the show the other night, this is before Philadelphia or before Morristown?
This was, I think this one was recorded before Philadelphia.
Don't you love iPhones and having this? Okay, we're gonna try this. We're gonna try and play a little bit of.
I wish I'd had somebody in the house filming it, but I wasn't that on top of it.
A rehearsal?
Yeah.
Debby Boone and Steve Tyrell, never before heard on the radio, on martiniinthemorning.com. See how this sounds.
And never again.
I need piano in my wedge, which I don't have. There you go.
Did you see who it is?
It is. It's John Otto.
Is he calling to tell you? Is he calling you to tell you we shouldn't be playing it?
Oh,
That's too funny. Well,
gosh, now we
wait, here. Okay.
What do we do?
Well, we can pick up where we left off because
Okay.
as soon as it stops ringing, I think it'll go back
love
to
it. That's what you get for using your iPhone. Payback.
Here we go. Let's try it. Let's see if it's still playing. Is it still playing or did it stop? Oh yeah, it's right where it left off. So let's try this.
I'm glad somebody technically.
There we go. Back to the rehearsal.
So I do. Play that B section. I forgot what we were doing. Play that B section. I forgot what. Do I sing the whole thing? You remember?
Yeah, I do.
I see your face in it. On the piano. Yeah. Split that. And then you can come back and play the
Debby Boone and Steve Tyrell and his band of brothers. A very candid. That's fun. It was, and having been around Steve off, when the audience isn't around, I mean, he's him.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, all through his show, he's him. That's the greatest thing. I think, my dad's that way. Rosemary was that way. What you saw was what you got. And I really like that. I really like that. His sensibility is very much like Rosemary's when she was performing, and to work with her. And, in fact, I tell a story about Rosemary never warming up before a show and how that surprised me. And he came later and said, I don't either. I don't do any vocal exercises. He just sort of sings songs that he likes while he's getting ready,
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, there's some artists who, have this whole regimen. I remember being at a Steve show. Steve was opening for Linda Ronstadt years ago, and I walked by her dressing room, and she's going through this whole, it's like she's doing like opera or something, warming up her vocal cords. It's funny that you say that about your mother-in-law, Rosemary Clooney. The story that your cousin-in-law told me when he was explaining how he worked with Diane Reeves, he said that he asked Rosemary Clooney how she managed to continue her career to an age where many of her contemporaries had long since retired, that their voices, they couldn't do the shows. And he told me that what he told Diane Reeves was that when he asked her, how she about the longevity, she said, "I finally realized I don't have to prove to people I know how to sing," and that she, didn't necessarily do all the high notes, and she realized she didn't have to.
She did not. She did not, because she connected to the lyric and sang from such a real place inside of her that it touched the very real place inside of the rest of us.
Right.
So with a little over an octave range, she could do more. you know, with a song than most people that, you know, that we hear now that have, you know, 3 octaves and all the gymnastics.
Because they miss the point. They miss that it's all about the connection.
Yeah. I mean, Rosemary used to send out Christmas cassette tapes. You know, that was her Christmas card. She'd go into the studio, record a Christmas song, and in the instrumental break, she would do personal messages to each person on her list.
How sweet.
Can you imagine? And I often say, you know, all you had to hear was Rosemary sing, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas," and it brought tears to your eyes. I mean, it was like brandy. You know, you just felt this warmth instantly inside of you. You know,
she was very
gift.
very real. And it's the funny thing about George having given her that Diane Reeves, that advice that came from Rosemary Clooney, was that on that album, if you listen to the soundtrack, Diane Reeves sang the songs very straight. I mean, very impressive, and she definitely grasped what the songs were about, and she did it without the vocal gymnastics. And I love Diane Reeves. In fact, we were supposed to have Billy Vera on this Friday. Billy's doing a show for the Society of Singers, and Billy told me a similar story about working with Diane Reeves. She did a song. She did it last with Lou Rawls years ago, and Billy produced it, and he told basically the same story, that you know, sometimes you want to just connect to the song and not be so trying so hard. I guess.
You know, I learned a lot once. I was taking a class for doing screen test auditions, you know, so you'd go into this class and they put you on tape to learn how to do a screen test audition. And I went in and I became the sample for what not to do. I didn't know I was being asked to do that, but I did my first scene and I didn't know what the frame was, so I was moving too much. My face was overly animated, and everybody had a good laugh at my expense. And then he said, "Now do it. You're not allowed to make one expression. You're not allowed to move your face. You're not allowed to move your body. Just say the lines." And when you took all that stuff away, somehow it dropped deep inside, and I felt the scene in a whole different way, because I wasn't doing all that extra unnecessary stuff, and it went to the real part of me, and I never forgot that. And that's how Rosemary sang.
Debbie Boone on MartiniInTheMorning.com this Saturday at the La Mirada Theater, La Mirada, California. Debbie Boone in concert, and doing a lot of the songs from Reflections of Rosemary, and also some songs from the new project.
A little bit of that and a little bit of some other stuff. It's going to be fun.
Do we know when the new album will be out, by the way?
We're shooting for this fall, God willing. Yeah.
Good. Debbie Boone on MartiniInTheMorning.com again Saturday. Mother Miriam has a question.
I got a question. But it is a kind of
here,
question.
take my microphone.
When you're on stage, and you have such a background, such an incredible background, and so many people know about your background. Remember Carol Burnett used to take questions from the audience?
Yeah.
I just wondered, would you ever think to do that?
I have never thought to do that, because, you know, I mean, you open yourself up to, at least when Carol Burnett did it, they could edit it out. But you never know what you're going to get, you know, so you take that chance.
Has anyone ever approached you with a story or a question that was inappropriate, or?
No, not necessarily, although we were talking, I think, off the air about now in the days of social networking, that sometimes on Facebook people will say things that, you know, you go, okay, let's just take that off. That's unnecessary, you know. You know, some people just have complaints or whatever, that it's not the right forum, or the stage, you know. But I really wouldn't be afraid of that, honestly. We've never thought to do it.
So many generations.
Yeah.
My generation, I grew up with your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And then your dad.
Yeah.
And then your mom.
Yeah.
And then
it's a rich history.
It is.
Your husband.
It really is.
There's so much to ask you, you know.
Yeah.
And if you can't hear Mother Miriam off mic, because we're one mic short, you might be able to hear the rest of that on our video blog that we're putting together for the next email newsletter, and so we'll share that with you as we get a little bit closer.
Take your Dramamine first, though. That camera's been moving.
Oh yeah, that's funny. It's almost like she's heard me talking about you giving me a ride to Miriam. We're down one car right now. Mother Miriam picks me up and brings me to work some days, and I have to take Dramamine when I get to work.
Oh, that's funny.
Just for driving.
That's funny.
Hey, one last question, and we'll let you get out of here. A lot of people are doing duets nowadays. And I mean, you just did the performance with Steve, and I know you did another song in the show with him.
Yeah, we did Say a Little Prayer.
Which is, he has great history with that song because of all his work with Burt Bacharach and Hal David. Have you ever thought about doing an album of duets? Are there people you'd like to do record with?
Oh, yeah, lots of people I'd love to record with. And
George can't sing, so
yeah, a little bit he can, but yeah, they took his voice out on "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
That's
put
right.
something else in.
Yeah. I remember that.
You know who I would love to sing with is Harry Connick. I would love to do a duet with Harry Connick. Wouldn't mind doing a duet with Sting. And I loved doing that with Steve. I would love to, have the opportunity at some point to record a duet with him. I love his voice. It's such a great voice, and it's unlike any other.
That's right. He is nobody but himself.
You know who you're listening to instantly, and that's a great gift, I think.
Well, and you'll keep us posted with your shows that are coming up, so we can let folks know, because we get people listening all over the world, as a matter of fact. Debby Boone, Reflections of Rosemary. The best is yet to come on Martini in the Morning. Thanks, Debby.
Thank you.